Alrighty, hello good people, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time joining us over at A Radical Relationship, we are actually finishing off our Fervent series. So in this series, we've been going through this book by Priscilla Shirer. And this week is our last week where we discuss strategy 10, which is your relationships. Okay. So before we get started, especially for any first time comers, be sure to like, subscribe. The handles for my different social media accounts are listed in the description box, so just check me out there. I of course post these videos, but also different blog posts, inspirational posts throughout the week as well. So be sure to hit that button. All right, so strategy 10, your relationships, uniting in a common cause. So this one was a good one. In this chapter, she's talking about just what it looks like for us to be unified. What it looks like for us to be unified in ways that Satan will kind of look to divide in different ways. So she started out with this really cool analogy about friendly fire, which is when those in combat in the military, when they lose their life, not due to enemy fire, but due to being killed in some way by someone on their own team, of course, mostly through mistakes, unfortunately. But she categorized those kind of friendly fires as a needless loss. And that's exactly what happens when Satan is successful in turning us against one another. And this can look different in various relationships. She gave examples in marriage. She gave examples in friendships, with church members, with family members, whatever the case may be. And so really throughout the entire chapter, what she did was stress the importance of fighting for harmony in your friendships. And so when I thought about this for my own life, I thought about my friendship with my best friend, Insia. That friendship, I smile thinking about it, is one that, you know, in so many ways we've been able to see how this is divinely appointed. We started out as complete strangers, of course, went to the same college, ended up as line sisters. But I think what we've come to see as our friendship has grown since meeting each other back in 2011 is that God had much bigger plans in store for us. So at that time, we weren't necessarily the closest line sisters. She was a graduating senior the semester that we crossed, so she didn't get much time on the yard with us. And so so that was 2011. I graduated in 2013. So it really wasn't until about 2014 that I would say our relationship really started to blossom. I remember coming back to Knoxville for a birthday celebration for her. And then, you know, she was on this whole spiritual kick with God. And then my journey came later, and our paths just have continued to grow closer. But all that to say, in our friendship today, as much more mature women than we were then, we say all the time that, like, hey, we want to be able to have open and honest communication because we don't want Satan to have a foothold. So when I'm feeling some type of way, something is rubbing me the wrong way, or even if I'm feeling insecure about something, or something you said is rubbing me the wrong way, or I don't really know how to say this type of thing, just really growing in our communication, because we realize how not having that open dialogue really allows Satan this place for just like making up stuff in our mind about the other person or about this scenario that isn't true. And so we were actually just having a conversation about that last night, where I was just saying, like, man, I truly do believe that God is using our friendship and our communication to really mold us for what's next in our lives. But we've been able to see just how strategic Satan can be in wanting to plot one person against the other. There have been times where, like, we may not be communicating that week, not because we've had like a true fallout, but there's clearly some type of vibe here, not really sure what's going on. So like, she's giving me space, I'm giving her space, kind of thing. But then like, she'll come to mind and I'll text her about something, is at the exact time that she needed a friend, you know, in some way, and vice versa. And so it's just cool to be able to see us fight for our friendship in that way. And to be able to look for Satan's strategies. And so that would be one of the things that, you know, is truly a takeaway for me in reading this chapter, because she talked about how when we fight for peace, it gives us clarity of mind and clear thinking. And so when we're able to step away from a situation where we may be feeling tension and conflict, and I remembered so much advice when I was getting married about how your spouse isn't the enemy. So being able to take a step back from whatever relationship, spouse, friend, church member, family member, and say, okay, you know, as a Christian, I am fighting a different enemy. I'm fighting a different battle. So let me pull back. Let me see what I'm contributing to this situation. Let me try to get sober-minded to assess how this person that I'm feeling this way against is contributing to this situation, and let us try to meet on common grounds here. And if both parties are approaching it in humility, that's just always a recipe for success. I also like the point that she made about she said, and I'll just read it verbatim, the magnet that draws people is the gospel that they see lived, not necessarily the gospel that they see preached. She talked about how one of the hallmarks of the kingdom of God is diversity. That's one of the things that I really love about my church family, is that there are people united within our body that under normal circumstances and in the world, these people would never be friends. You know, people that I would never talk to, that I would never stop on the street, because we look different, we grew up different, we ain't gonna naturally vibe the same, you know, just like the natural things that like you just wouldn't be somebody I would naturally take to. But because of the kingdom of God, we can be friends and have a great relationship, you know, and walk into the same place together, and people be like, you know, can wonder like, how do these people even know each other? You know, like, because clearly there are a lot of differences at play. And I definitely think that that's one of the things that Satan is working against when he's, you know, really looking to divide and separate us. And I love the fact that she said the magnet that draws people is the gospel that they see lived, not just what they hear preached, because oftentimes people see that as being two different things. What they hear a pastor preach about and what they hear a pastor live are often vast differences. And so you see people being attracted to the gospel, attracted to Christ, because of what they see. And the Bible speaks to that. They say, they'll know you're my disciples by the way that you love. So what our lives look like, how we're able to forgive, how relationships are able to be mended, how we're able to be at peace, how we're able to be friends with people we wouldn't normally be friends with, all because we're unified as a body, turns heads, because the world can be so divisive. And so just as you think about these different conflicts, relationships close to you, where there may be tension and whatnot, kind of taking that step back to say, okay, in what ways would our enemy win? You know, if we were to think about this as there being an active enemy working against us and this relationship in some way, you know, what strategies is that enemy deploying that's working, and that kind of thing. I wrote down here, just as I think about my own experiences, where there's been just opportunities for division when I felt wronged by people is that I can take people's mistakes as their character, and attribute the things that they do, which they may have just mishandled a situation. They may have just made a mistake. It is just the effect of their actions on me. When taken in context, it truly isn't malicious. And then I can just attribute it to that person's character, like that's the person that they are, as opposed to that's a mistake that they made, or that's just even clarity that they don't have yet about this situation and the way that it affected me. So I would say that that's a great point too, just as we're looking to live in peace in our different relationships, again, whether that's with your spouse, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case may be, that like a person is like the totality of their actions, but what's consistent? That's what we need to be taking a look at. And so if it proves that this action is actually not consistent, but it's situational, then I just think to respond in humility is to give that person the benefit of the doubt and be sure that we're trying to have conversations about those emotions to be able to move forward. And I thought all of that was really good. So I'll end with a couple of passages on unity that I thought were really good. There in Romans chapter 14. One is verse 13. So Romans 14:13. It says, so let's stop condemning each other. Decide instead to live in such a way that you will not cause another believer to stumble and fall. And this is cool because I think if everybody lived this way, it would just like solve for so many conflicts. If everybody is trying to be conscious about how to not cause another person to stumble and fall, then I think the devil is disarmed in such an amazing way when we all choose to live like that, being the change that we want to see in so many ways. And then verse 19, Romans 14:19, so then let us aim for harmony in the church and try to build each other up. So just a couple verses there that just speak to what our goal should be in our one another relationships. So I thought that this was just like a really great place to end, because our relationships with one another just set the tone for so much. And I've seen that be true myself, just quality of life in so many ways, just kind of not necessarily defined because it doesn't have to be, but how things can go in my relationships can really just set the tone for a lot. So I just encourage everyone to just strive to live in peace, because not only is that going to be what pleases God, that's going to be what disarms Satan. So that is a wrap for this Fervent series. It's been great. I read like the end of the book where she went into just talking about just kind of how her conviction on prayer was bred, and it really just prompted me to go into prayer about the ways that I want to experience God as well in my prayer life and whatnot. So I'm excited. So if you have not checked out the other videos, be sure to check those out. This series has been great for the season of life that I've been in, helping me to be intentional in my prayer life. So I pray and hope that these videos have encouraged you in the ways that studying these things out have encouraged me. And I definitely just look forward to the future topics on this channel. So stay tuned. But until then, we out. Bye, y'all.